Without any more hesitation, I reached out and pushed open the door, taking in the sudden silence as Sarah's voice faded away. As the door swung open, a blinding light flooded my vision, revealing a spacious lobby room of sorts. The walls gleamed a pristine white, while fluorescent lights bathed the area in a surreal glow. I stood there in awe of this complex. I couldn't help but marvel at the contrasting world before me. The natural cave I had been exploring merely moments ago had become this pristine, man-made environment. But my objective remained unchanged. I steeled myself and took a deep breath as I ventured forward, ready to uncover anything that might be waiting for me. As I stepped out into the illuminated complex, I felt my heart sink as a thought crossed my mind. Why would her voice cut out the moment I opened the door? The sound of her voice that had guided me through the caves abruptly disappeared as if swallowed by the silence within this complex. But it wasn't exactly silent. The 3 different open doors before me seemed to taunt me with their secrecy, each leading to their own purpose. The first door was adorned with a sign indicating administration. It appeared to have once been a hub of activity. I could faintly hear the echoes of phones ringing and muffled conversations emanating from that room, but as I approached, a perplexing emptiness consumed the hallway, leaving me feeling detached and uncertain. The second door, larger and marked as laboratories, fascinated me. Behind its imposing threshold lay a world of possible scientific exploration and discovery. There were faint traces of humming machines and the flickering glow of fluorescent lights seeping through the slightly ajar entrance. However, again, as I carefully pushed the door open, an eerie silence embraced the otherwise once bustling research center, rendering the space strangely liminal and desolate. Finally, my eyes rested on the third door, which bore the label Medical Wing. I sensed an air of urgency and suppressed chaos surrounding that entrance. Moments ago, my sister's panicked voice had beckoned me from somewhere within its confines, but now, there was only emptiness. The dim light that leaked through the narrow gap between door and frame hinted at a sterile environment, one that once concealed both solace and uncertainty. But now, there was no one there. As I stood there, feeling suspended amidst the open doors, uncertainty gripped at me. The lobby, which under normal circumstances would be a bustling hub of movement and interaction, felt strangely empty and devoid of life. The space that surrounded me, occupying the thin line between anticipation and disappointment, heightened my anxiety. It was as if time stood still, teetering between my hope and my despair. The search for my sister had brought me to this complex, seeking answers. But the more that I stayed here and the more that I looked for her, I only found more questions. I never even stopped to think about how I knew she was missing, about how I knew where to go, about how these caves called to me. Was it ever really my sister that called me here? Regardless of all the thoughts that were spinning through my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling of being lost in this place, so I froze and contemplated my next move. The 3 rooms that seemed so promising at first turned out to be nothing more than empty chambers, devoid of any signs of life at all. Each time I stepped into one, hoping to find anything, I would hear sounds from one of the other rooms. It was as if the walls were playing tricks on me. My anxiety was heightened, so I turned towards the exit, hoping to maybe escape for a moment. But as my eyes darted towards the heavy metal door through which I had entered, a shiver ran down my spine. It was gone. It had vanished without a single trace, leaving behind a white, pristine wall in its place. Disbelief washed over me, spreading through my veins like an icy chill. What once was the gateway to the outside world had now disappeared, leaving me trapped within the confines of this complex. I pressed my hands against the smooth, cold surface that now stood before me, feeling the weight of despair settle upon my shoulders. Panic welled up inside of me as I realized the dire situation I was in. How did this happen? How could something as solid and as tangible as a door just cease to exist? Questions raced through my mind, but the answers remained hidden within the enigma of this place. Determined not to surrender to hopelessness, I took a deep breath. I refused to let desperation consume me. This was not the end. I would find a way to uncover the secrets hidden within these walls and to discover the truth behind my sister's disappearance. I knew they were connected somehow. With a renewed motivation, I turned away from the wall and prepared myself as best I could, but as I turned around, a knot of unease began to form in my stomach. The once familiar complex lobby had transformed into the very same medical wing I had been in just seconds ago. The sterile walls, the clinical equipment, all of it was there, but something was different. As my eyes scanned the room, I noticed it immediately. 3 doors, positioned in the middle of each wall of the room. Had they materialized out of nowhere? Was that even possible? Could I really have moved back into the medical wing without noticing that? Despite the uncertainty that pressed upon me, one thing remained clear. I couldn't afford to be sidetracked by this strange phenomenon. With adrenaline pulsing through my veins, I halted my thoughts and prepared to face whatever could possibly lay beyond one of these doors. It took me a moment to make the decision, but I finally decided on going through the door on the left. My hands quivered as I reached out and pushed it open, using the flat of my palms since there was no handle or knob. But as I stepped through that door, a wave of revulsion washed over me. It wasn't the sight that greeted my eyes, but rather an overpowering and disgusting smell that invaded my senses. The stench was so potent it made my stomach churn, and it threatened to escape through my throat. It was a combination of foul odors that I just couldn't even decipher if I tried. Grimacing, I tried my best to breathe through my mouth, hoping to avoid inhaling any more rancid air. My eyes watered involuntarily, stinging from the offensive aroma that hung heavy in the hallway. It felt as though the repulsive scent had seeped into every particle of the air, tainting it beyond redemption. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, curving in a way that blocked my view of the entire corridor. Each step I took would slowly reveal more of what lay out of sight, pushing me further into the unknown. The intensity of the smell made it hard to focus on anything else, but in the back of my mind, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. There was no confirmation at the time, no concrete evidence, but a growing sense of unease gnawed at me, urging caution. I strained my ears for any signs of movements, but all I could hear was the eerie silence of my surroundings. Shadows danced along the walls, taunting me as if they held secrets I desperately needed to uncover. With a trembling hand, I clenched my fists. I would not let fear overcome me. I had come too far to turn back now. My sister needed me, regardless of the chilling aura that permeated the hallway. Once more, I continued forward. With each step I took, the anticipation grew, and the sense of being followed became more overpowering. But I couldn't afford to falter now. I had to stay strong. For Sarah. I reached the end of the dimly lit corridor. Just like the metal door I had entered through earlier, another one stood before me. But before I could even process my surroundings, a chilling, otherworldly commotion pierced the air, originating from the beginning of the hallway. It sounded like the screams of multiple different people, blending with the noises of life from all the previous rooms I had been in before. I couldn't see what was making the sound, but I knew I shouldn't stay to find out. With a surge of adrenaline, I bolted towards the door, my heart pounding in my chest. The heavy thuds reverberated through the building, seemingly shaking its very foundation with each step of whatever was pursuing me. Another scream, even more ear-splitting than before, echoed through the corridor, but I didn't dare glance back. I reached the metal door just in time and slammed it shut behind me. a cold chill running down my spine as I caught a brief glimpse of a sickly-looking creature. Its twisted, emaciated frame reached out, placing its arms on the walls, using them to propel itself forward. It was disturbing, to say the least. But for now, I locked myself on the other side of that door, clinging to the hope that somewhere in this complex I could find answers. I took a deep breath, and I noticed that the terrible smell had dissipated. It had been replaced with the smell of flowers. I jumped with a fright as the creature began to claw on the metal door. But the solid barrier refused to yield. Somehow, against all odds, the doors proved stronger than whatever that thing itself was. As the creature's futile efforts echoed through the cavern, darkness once again enveloped me. Realizing my situation, I hastily clicked on my flashlight again. The feeble light unveiled another section of the vast cave, urging me to keep moving forward, cautiously. Every step I took was accompanied by a mix of anxiety and hope, my mind fixated on finding the source of the intoxicating fragrance of flowers that filled the air. It was an unexpected and mesmerizing scent, contrasting sharply with the eerie, oppressive atmosphere of these underground depths. As I ventured deeper, each breath brought a swirl of fear-induced intoxication, wondering if this path would lead to the whereabouts of my sister, or if I would be met with more dangers and God knows what else. With every step, the smell of flowers grew stronger, signaling that I was getting closer. The beam of my flashlight danced nervously around the uneven cave floor, my eyes scanning for any sign or trace of life. I searched every nook and cranny as I ventured deeper into the unknown. But it was then that I stumbled upon an open section of the cave. The sight before me left me utterly astonished, frozen in awe. In the center of this spacious area, there floated a mesmerizing ball of light. Its radiance closely resembled that of a sun, casting a warm and comforting glow all around. As my eyes adjusted, I noticed the ball of light was suspended above a pristine freshwater spring. Crystal clear water flowed gently, its soothing melody reaching my ears. Surrounding the spring, a breathtaking display unfolded before my eyes. Hundreds of different kinds of flowers flourished and bloomed, their vibrant colors blending harmoniously. I couldn't tear my gaze away from this enchanting scene. The air seemed to dance with a fragrant floral perfume, filling my senses with a feeling of serenity and tranquility. The combination of the radiant light, the peaceful water, and the thriving garden of flowers created a magical ambiance that defied all logic. Lost in this extraordinary sight, I couldn't help but wonder if my sister had found refuge among the beauty and tranquility of this hidden haven. Was this the sanctuary she sought? With newfound hope, I pressed on, drawn towards the ethereal light and the promise of discovering the truth. The curious blend of awe and trepidation propelled me forward, taking cautious steps towards the floating ball of light. My heart raced, my mind flooded with questions and anticipation. Little did I know that the answers I yearned for lay hidden within this spectacle. As I stood there basking in the ethereal beauty before me, an unexplainable thought suddenly entered my mind. I needed to swim.